comics are stupid.
No Harry Potter movie is good.
And you're like, give me the Snyder Cut. Oh, sorry, just walk in front of you here. I'm gonna put my popcorn down. Oh, sorry, gotta put this here.
Universal needs to sue Sony.
Hey, I'm an idiot. I was fired from Fox. Let me go.
I'd like actually to see Venom just crush Spider-Man.
Hello everyone, so we're back today with episode 10 of this series, and we're joined by a great director in Grant Harvey. How are you doing?
Hey, hi, good man, how are you?
I'm good, I'm doing well. So just to kind of start off, and I'm going to ask you, do you like superheroes?
Yes, I scoped out your site, and I'm not a super big superhero guy, but there's some of them that I've liked. Don't ask me much about superheroes because I'm not that big on them. But yeah, I actually I just started the Batman the other night, but I got called away to work, so I'm going to finish that this weekend. It looked cool. I like the way that looked. I mean, it was a pretty big lift from 7, but it looked pretty great.
Yeah, the new one, right, with Robert Pattinson?
Yeah. I mean, it looks great.
It's a good movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? I should finish it?
You should.
Okay, I'll finish it. Just because you said.
Yeah, see, there we go. So the first question then I've got to ask, beyond the superhero question is, how did you get into directing?
How did I get into directing? Yeah. I mean, I'm the sort of cliche. I watched, I started making movies, Super 8 movies. My dad had a little Super 8 camera that I would make Super 8 movies with, and, saw Star Wars and Jaws and wanted to make movies, that kind of classic. And then in high school, I really got into John Hughes movies and realized they really spoke to me, like The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles and Back to the Future was another big one for me. So that kind of I realized that I could. It was something that I wanted to get into. I was always into drama. I acted a lot in high school and directed some plays in high school. So that kind of. But I was from Calgary, Alberta, so not really the filmmaking mecca or anything like that. So I found some like-minded friends and we started making stuff. And then I went to film school in Calgary, and it was a technical college, so a 2-year program. And film school was awesome because you meet your posse. And I still work with. I'm on a job right now working with a cinematographer named Tom Best, and he and I went to film school together 30 years ago. John Fawcett, who did, created Orphan Black and Ginger Snaps, and he hired me to work on Titans. Speaking of superheroes, and so we kind of met. You meet your gang, and then I just started doing commercials. I lived in my parents' basement till I was 28, but doing music videos for free, little commercials, industrial films, and then that led to doing more and more bigger stuff. And I'm pretty old, so my resume is reasonably long. But yeah, if you want to ask me more specifically, I could help you out. That's the thing about coming from a small market like Calgary is I did everything: commercials, documentaries, music videos, corporate films, short films, and then I did a little movie that called American Beer that kind of got me started on my TV career as well.
So because you've done so many different things, what's your favorite thing to do? The thing you feel like you get the most freedom to kind of play around with? Like, which did
It's interesting that you asked that. Music videos and short films. Because you're sort of you really do truly author them as the director. I find, TV, I'm a guest. I'm bringing what I bring, but I have to bring that to the show and kind of fit myself to the show. And ultimately, the showrunners and the producers, they're kind of they're the directors. They're the people with. I just get one cut. I'm not at the mix. I'm not involved in the sound or the visual effects or the color grading. So yeah, it's interesting you asked that because I've been yearning for I mean, and a lot of young filmmakers would punch me in the face, but I feel like going backwards. I feel like, I'd love to shoot stuff out of the back of a, cube van with my buddies. And in fact, segue, that's what I just finished doing. There's a few of us, a couple of friends, he's actually a camera operator named Sean Jensen, one of kind of the top camera operators in Toronto. His buddies with John Fawcett, who I went to film school with. So I had a company with Sean early days in Calgary, and we've been friends for 30 years. And we were both feeling like the kind of lost our mojo and we had always felt like artists, and this is, filmmaking is who we are, not what we do. And kind of feeling like we lost that. And so I said, he's got a bunch of gear, and I hired him. I actually was working at Ubisoft for a couple of years just to try something new. I directed cinematics at Ubisoft for 3 years, and I got him in to do the virtual cameras, which was super fun. And he said, I got a lot of gear. I just want to make something. Let's go back to like the olden days. So I called a writer friend, Stephen Mascott, who had written some stuff for me in the past. And I said, write us a little movie. This is about a year and a half ago. And at Christmas, he delivered a script that was very shootable. It's really cool. And I phoned Sean. I said, okay, game on, man. Let's make a movie. And we're going to shoot it in May and June. We had no idea how we were going to raise the money or whatever. But so what we ended up doing was it was like a mentorship opportunity. My daughter's in film school in third year. So I said, find me your good friends that are good at their jobs, and we'll hire them, pay them an honorarium, and we'll go shoot a feature film. And that's what we did. So Sean and I and my wife Fabiana were kind of the grown-ups, and then we had a team of about 12 or 13 film students and a couple of young actors, and we had a cube band, and it felt like 1995 again. It was fantastic, and we shot a very cool little movie that I can't wait to share with the world. Yeah.
Has it been picked up by?
It's called How We Ended. No, so we financed it ourselves, and we kind of want to hold on to it. We're lucky. We have a distributor in Canada that sort of triggered the tax credits, called IndieCan, but we're going to hold on to it and then finish it. And then I have an agent. My agent is Paradigm in LA, and they have a very good feature department as far as selling features. So we'll try and get it in some festivals and sell it. But we're holding on to all of it. It's kind of fun, We've got this little movie, and I don't want to put any pressure on it. We didn't do it for that reason. We did it to fall in love with filmmaking again, and it worked. So yeah.
So you haven't sold.
It's a cool little movie.
Yet.
Not at all. Nope. No, it's footloose and fancy free, as they say. Someday, we'll go shopping when it's finished. Yeah.
That's the best way to do it. You make a movie, and then when it's done, then you give it to us. Then you can deal with the distribution instead of
Absolutely. No, it was awesome. It's awesome, and especially because I've been doing a lot of TV, where, like I said, like you're sort of. And rightly so, you're answering to a lot of people that are, that have invested in it, that own it, that created it. So with our little movie, we would laugh. We were always laughing. It was like, okay, well, I like this actor. You like this actor? Yeah, I like that actor. Okay, we should check with no one. We're going to hire this actor. Yeah, it was great to just really sort of take back our careers and our art form and just be able to make all the decisions, right or wrong. It was awesome. So yeah, so Sean and then the writer Stephen Mascott, who also joined us for the shoot and acts in it a little bit. So yeah, we the three of us are kind of the partners, and then my wife helped out as well.
Now, if I can ask, Can you tell me a little bit about the plot of the movie, or like a general summary?
Yeah. It's a supernatural thriller. It edges towards horror. I wouldn't, I like horror movies. I would be. It might be a little dangerous calling it a horror movie for horror fans, because it's not me. I don't think it's exactly horror, but it's definitely creepy and scary. But it's essentially it's about a young couple that go on a road trip to see if they can rekindle their romance after an incident that happened to them. And so they're kind of going back to where they first sort of fell in love, to see if that this road trip will sort of bring back their relationship. And on the way, a haunting starts, and they start to become more and more haunted by this area that they're in and this house that they visit, and things get weirder and weirder, and and it starts to get. It's very influenced by some of my favorite movies. I love the movie Angel Heart. If your young fans have not seen that movie, it's fantastic. And then another movie called Jacob's Ladder is a big favorite of mine. Another movie that you guys should go out and find and watch, because they're both awesome. Yeah.
So would you say?
And a little bit, Sixth Sense. Like it would sort of live in that world. Ghosty.
It's like Ghostbusters kind of thing, like that level of horror, I guess.
No, definitely more serious, like a little more like The Shining, or it's more serious horror than kind of goofy horror kind of thing.
So
I would.
Jordan Peele area.
Yep. Get Out would be that kind of zone for sure. Have you seen the new one? I haven't.
I haven't seen. It's Nope, right?
Is it out? Is it out yet?
I believe it came out last week. Yeah.
Right on. I'd like to check that out. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think he's doing some pretty cool things.
Yeah, and I loved Get Out, and I loved what was the other one? I can't remember right now.
Oh yeah. It Follows is a good reference too for the movie that I just shot. Kind of indie thriller horror. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can kind of see that kind of that. Those are my favorite kind of horror movies. Like being.
Me too. Yeah.
I feel like
I like
blockbuster kind of horror movies are kind of overplayed a little bit, but.
Yeah, I agree. Although back in the day, I sure liked Poltergeist. I wonder if it's still any good. They probably, I imagine they've remade it too, but I remember the original Poltergeist was a lot of fun to watch.
So you directed a video game too, called Far Cry 6.
Two of them. Yeah.
So
I did Watch Dogs first, Legion, and then Far Cry 6. Yeah, and I directed just to be clear, I was the cinematics director. I wasn't the game director, but just the cinematics. Yeah.
So what does that involve?
So basically, I was the director of, and kind of. And certainly in that world, it was more like a feature. Where as a director, I sort of I was carrying the ball. Although I worked for a narrative director, Naveed, who he was almost like a showrunner in television. Head writer, showrunner. But basically, I shot like 2 hours and 15 minutes, basically a feature film worth of dramatic cinematics. There was a realization director that would do the smaller stuff and the connective tissue to gameplay, but I was doing more of the story. And I got to work with Giancarlo Esposito, who was fantastic. It was great. We had Giancarlo Esposito, and then we had the kid that played Coco. So it was like Gus Fring and Coco in Far Cry 6, which is pretty cool. Yeah. But it's freaking awesome, and it's a fun game, like a really fun game. But this I'm really proud of the story. I think it's sort of. Yeah, it's at the top end of what I've seen in video game cinematics, storytelling wise.
So would you direct like the cutscenes? Is that kind of what you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. The cutscenes.
And is it like directing an animated movie? Is that kind of like a similar comparison?
Yes, in a way we do motion capture. So we brought in actors into the studio, beautiful motion capture studio here at the Junction in Toronto. And we brought in actors, and then I worked just like I would. Shooting the scenes, but the difference would be we would shoot them kind of like a master, like we would try and shoot almost like a stage play, but I would be thinking through where the cameras were going to be, and then the animators would assemble the scenes, put the models of the characters on the data that we had of the actors, and then I would go back in like 2 months later with my friend Sean, and we would shoot virtual cameras. So back in the volume, we had a camera, which is basically a screen with motion capture dots on it, and we could shoot all the shots. Like we brought in a crane and a Steadicam and handheld and all the different things, and we'd shoot all the coverage, and then we would edit that just like a movie, color graded it just like a movie, did the sound mix just like a movie, special effects, VFX. all the stuff. It was very much like shooting a film, but really fun. Like and it takes forever. It's very slow compared to television, but super precise. Like that was what was interesting. Like you could adjust things. Like, oh, that background performer, I want him to turn his head right at this moment. Like it kind of spoiled me that way. And it's interesting too because I realize that they do too much of that, and that's what sucks the life out of it. It's the little mistakes that make something feel real in real life. So I was always telling the animators, don't fix that. That somebody would fumble with their gun a bit, and I'd be like, that's what people do. So yeah, it was really fun. It's fun bringing sort of my years of experience in live action to that world, and it was awesome because I was the new guy. Like I had so much to learn, and now there's such a crossover with people shooting like The Mandalorian and A Volume. Those two worlds are coming together, so I kind of feel like I got a bit of a head start on that.
It's interesting because I don't think when you play a video game you kind of think about it in that same way. Like there's an actual director and there's actors who are like in motion capture and doing all this stuff, right? Like it feels like it's something which...
Hopefully you don't think about that. Hopefully you're just into the story. Yeah, exactly.
So that's very interesting. And was it one of the harder things you had to do in terms of just being able to do all that stuff so precisely?
Yeah, no, it's a different mindset, absolutely. And like I said, I had a lot to learn, but it was interesting. Like I keep telling my friends in film, I said, I'm working on something that's the size of a Marvel movie. Like the budget of the game is $200 million, but it feels like a bunch of friends working on a music video out of a cube band because it's an industry that sort of figured it out. Like they've kind of grown up very quickly, but also in a bubble. So bringing in someone like me who's been from an industry that's 100 years old, I had a lot that I could bring to the table of little things that we've, sort of perfected as far as the process over the years. And so it was really exciting to say, hey, guys, like, I know the way you're doing it works, but what if we did it this way? That will really, I think, make it more efficient. And so it was really fun to do that, But yeah, it was hard. Like, it's challenging for sure. Yeah, it's challenging. There's technical limitation. That sometimes you're like, oh, why can't we just do this? And they're like, yeah, we can't really do that, But there's a lot of things you can do. Like I was doing scenes that I would never, especially in Watch Dogs, which was I was like shooting a James Bond movie. Like I was doing stuff with like killer drones, fights on the top of a building. I mean, I'm never going to do that in my day job, in film and television. I'm not going to be directing that kind of action, So that was really fun. Yeah.
So, what kind of what's the best way to phrase this? when you're watching, so when you're filming a TV show, right? Do you go back and do you watch it when it airs, and when you're do you play the video games that you do, and do you watch all that stuff after, or do you not?
Okay, so most TV shows, I kind of don't watch it. It's a bit like an actor. Like, I realized, like when I first got into television, because I had been doing commercials and music videos and being the author of things, I got myself in trouble all the time because I would be like trying to keep involved, and they're like, Mr. Harvey, you've done your job, you've handed in your edit, get out, And then I would watch it on TV, and I'm like, oh, why did they do that? Or what did they do with that? And I realized, like, it's not mine. Like, I've been hired to bring my skills and talents and experience to the table, and then they will use that to make their thing. So quite often, I will I'll keep a copy of my cut of it, and then if I'm curious, I might watch it, but. And some of the shows where I knew the showrunner really well, like Orphan Black, Burden of Truth, I did watch it, or if it was fun to watch it with my family. But a lot of times I don't bother usually, just because it's it's not really mine at that point. Or I'll watch it if I'm curious, but I don't get mad about it anymore. And then the video game, I'm terrible at playing video games, so what I did was watch my kids play the video games, which was super fun. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. to watch them enjoy it, because our sons are in Calgary and our daughters are here in Toronto, and they would actually play together. In co-op mode. So they had a blast. My one daughter, who'd never played video games before, she actually finished the whole game, which is epic. So now she's a gamer. Yeah. Funny.
So you watch a lot of movies, and we've kind of talked about a bunch of the movies you watched and you used to like to watch. Do you have a specific pet peeve when you're watching a movie, which is kind of like, you're like, oh, come on, you could have done better than that type thing?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, like, if I'm not really super engaged in the story, I'll, like, when I first started doing this, I thought watching TV and movies was wrecked, because all I could do was watch what was, how'd they do that? And I find myself I can turn that off, and if I enjoy watching, or a good TV show, I can just enjoy watching it. And then lots of movies I'll rewatch with that in mind. Like I went through an exercise. I didn't have a job for about 6 months, about 5 years ago. So I kind of, just to keep sharp, I every morning I would have my coffee, and then I'd watch a movie with a notepad, because I was working on a couple of scripts with some writers, and I would just write out the beats to sort of dissect the movie, and okay, when did this happen, and why did this happen? So I can definitely use that brain, and if I'm bored in a movie, I can switch over. Yeah, I mean, I'm more often, I guess the older I get, even with my work, the less I'm interested in seeing the filmmakers, the filmmaker showing off. And that's kind of a lot of reasons why I'm not so big on the not Marvel, but just superhero movies. A lot of them, and even the video game cinematics, a lot of them, they feel a bit wanky. Like, they're not, like, the way the camera moves, and the way, the sound is, all the things, they're just trying to be cool, as opposed to, like, tell the story. Like, the word cinematic sort of been wrecked. Like, cinematic does not mean big wide shot of dragons, like, cinematic means that all of the tools of cinema are telling the story. Like, I always say to, could you watch that with the volume down? Like, if you look at most TV right now, if you turn the volume off, you'd have no idea what was happening, right? Like, because it's not cinematic. Whereas a cinematic show, if you turn the volume down, you would feel things, because the filmmakers are using the tools of cinema to tell the story, as well as the dialogue, as well as the acting, So that bugs me. I'll get sort of turned off if something is sort of showing off. I mean, you watch something cool, like a John Wick film where it's all about the action, and hell yeah, I want to see those cool camera moves. But that can kind of pull me out. I was watching something just recently, I can't remember what it was, where I kept getting pulled out by stuff that felt like it was there to either to show off, or because someone thought it was cool, or the studio said more camera movement, and it didn't really tell the story. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I have a hunch you don't love the Michael Bay Transformers movies very much.
I love the first one. I actually loved the first one, just because it was so, I mean, I'll be honest, like, Michael Bay, because he's a commercial guy, I came from commercials, he's so honest and so committed to being Michael Bay that I kind of appreciate it, because he's like, I'm fucking Michael Bay, and I will make it as bombastic as I damn well please. And, Godspeed, Michael Bay. You're watching a Michael Bay movie with the volume turned down. It's Michael Bay. So I only saw I actually really enjoyed the first Transformers, because I went with our kids and they were little. And my son, when it finished, crowded theater, what's his name, Omnicron, or whatever the hell his name was, says this, cuts to black. My son stands up in the theater, and does the slow clap. And all the people in the theater are like, what? Who is that? My son's like, that was awesome! Awesome! So I really enjoyed that one. But they get a bit, I've seen over the shoulder, I've seen some of the other ones, and they're a bit much, for sure. Yeah. Even like Fast and Furious, quite frankly, the Marvel movies, like I've watched a few of them, and I'm not interested. Like, that's what is interesting about watching a bit of the Batman, is like I feel like I'm in a real place. I don't feel like I can't see the transition to CG when they, jump off a building and and land on the ground, and the ground goes crack, like it all feels grounded and real. And that definitely.
Wait till the end, then you'll be like, oh.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I and I'm old, so maybe that's part of it too. Although, Michael Bay's probably older than me. He's still giving her.
Yeah, he's still doing the same things, just for different movies now.
Yeah. I heard he's using, like, in his new film, he's using, like, first-person drones. Like, he hired some 21-year-old kid to fly drones. So, like, all those video game shots that were impossible, which kind of bugged me when I was watching video game cinematics, the camera would, like, fly under the desk and then out the window. And I'm like, yeah, but a camera can't do that. So that's why it feels fake to me. And same with the Marvel movies. It feels fake to me. But Michael Bay just did it for real with a drone. So now that'll be part of the language that's not fake. Yeah. Way to go, Michael.
So what do you think about movies that are done as and marketed specifically as a one-shot film? You think of Birdman, you think of 1917. What do you think about those kind of movies?
I mean, that 1917 I thought was really great. Like, I really enjoyed it. But interestingly, I was trying to shut off my filmmaker brain because I was quite enjoying the movie, but I was like, fuck, this is amazing. Like, it did actually kind of pull me out because I talked to my wife after, and she didn't get pulled out because she was super engaged in the story, as was I, but I couldn't help myself but going, oh, these guys are smart. They are smart. I like it. I mean, it's fun. The ones that really get me, I'm not a big one-er guy. Like, that's a one-er, is where, yeah, the camera doesn't cut, and you shoot a scene with one shot, and they're really fun to do. But they always made me too tense on set, and plus I was a commercial guy, so I was used to having cuts in my scene. Like, I think in terms of cuts. So I wanted to get better at them, and then video games actually helped that because we basically shot one-ers when we shot the data. So we try to get like a take that was great all across the board. And I've actually kind of fallen in love with figuring them out. Like, I think they're really fun to do, and I like them when they're in 1917. It was a great choice for that movie because you feel like you're absolutely experiencing what that person is going through, and I really like the ones in Children of Men. There's some excellent long takes in that are tense, with explosions and the whole bit, stunts, when you're in the know as to how much work that takes to coordinate. Like, by minute 7 or 8 or 10 of a one shot, everyone at the monitor is just like, oh my god, because one background performer could flash his eyes at the lens and you're wrecked. You're going again. But that's what's kind of fun about it. It's almost like live theater. Like, everyone's on edge and going, are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? And then you get to the end and you're like, yeah, we did it. Yeah. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't even know what the question was. You got me talking about one-ers there.
So then, what about critic reviews? What do you think? What's your view on critic reviews? Do you look at them? Do you kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really been involved with a ton of projects where there was reviews that were sort of aimed at me, some of the movies I made, they would have articles written about them or something, but not necessarily, but like, it's interesting because I have playwright friends and my showrunner friends, and you can't help but read it. Like, I mean, your best bet is not to read it, or not to watch it. Is just don't do that, like, I think George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, on the opening weekend of their movies, they always together, they go hang out in Hawaii, and they don't read or watch anything. But it's really hard because in in TV and video games, you never get to experience other people experiencing your story or your art form. You're sitting at home going, I hope the people at home are enjoying it. Whereas at least a film, if you go to a festival or whatever, you can sit in the back of the theater and watch 300 people laugh when you wanted them to laugh, or laugh when you didn't think they would laugh, or be scared or cry. So you get that part of the artistry, you sort of get satisfied. But like, if you're doing film and or TV and video games, there's really no feedback other than reading reviews or going online and seeing if people are trashing it, or or watching YouTube reviews. So I get it. Like, and I'm guilty as charged. I'll go and watch them. But it's really, what people don't understand is that it's connected. It's like if you baked a cake for a dinner party, and everyone was like, "Nah, that was pretty shitty," and I was like, "Yeah, but I baked the cake for you. We're all making this stuff for you guys." So when you hear that people think it's crap, it's hard to separate that from yourself. So yeah, it's a tricky bit, but it is a way to get feedback, and we all crave that, as artists. Like, we're not doing stage plays. We're not actors that feel that response from our stories. So there's a natural tendency to want to get that feedback for sure.
Well, I feel like Twitter, you can get feedback on whatever you want, because
yes,
constant update of what you're feeling at that exact moment. So
yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. I know a lot of my actor friends that are in TV shows will they'll tweet as the show's on, and so that is definitely satisfying their that sort of need for validation and feeling like someone's hearing your story, or seeing your story.
Well,
yeah, it's interesting.
Bad, and then it's kind of like,
and then turn it off. Yeah.
Now, when you watch movies, do you watch movies with subtitles?
Yeah.
Always?
And I prefer that. I'll watch foreign films with subtitles. And I prefer that to dub films by a long shot. Yeah. But yeah, I'm old and a little bit deaf, and some of the Christopher Nolan movies, I literally Tenet or whatever the hell it's called. It's terrible, Christopher. I couldn't hear a goddamn word anyone was saying. Like, to the point where I was like super mad about it. In my home theater, I was like, turn it on the subtitles, because I have no idea. And then of course it didn't matter what they were saying, because none of it made any sense. So there, look at me being a critic. Sorry, Mr. Nolan, if I hurt your feelings.
I think it'll be fine.
It was terrible. Yeah.
So
somebody's got to say no to that guy, because he used to be really good. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like The Dark Knight, Insomnia, Inception was pretty cool. Somebody just got to say, "Hey, buddy, whoa, no."
I think he's trying to do his best M. Night Shyamalan impression, and I think it's just, messing up.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, he's sort of in that box of, oh God, everyone expects some sort of crazy twist or whatever. Yeah.
Everyone expects to walk out of that movie not understanding what the hell you just watched, so I gotta make it happen. The
crazy thing is, you see people that are like, oh, 9 out of 10. And I'm like, you're a wanker. Like, let's just get real. It's okay to say it's terrible,
Yeah.
Did you like?
I was fine with it.
Oh! Did you? Oh!
I know, I didn't love it. I was fine with it. I was like, okay, this is okay, whatever.
What did you like? There was it made no sense.
I like the cast. That was it. I went for the cast. I'm not even gonna lie.
Fair enough.
Rob Pattinson, John David Washington, it's a good cast.
No, it's a good cast. It was a great cast. That's what I'm saying. It's tragic. Could have been awesome. The whole backwards thing was really cool.
The concept is cool. It's very M. Night Shyamalan again, where it's like, the concept is so cool.
No sense, yeah.
But then 7 twists later, it's like, why?
Yeah.
The ending was weird. I don't understand. I've watched that ending 7 times. I still have no clue. But
7. That movie made me so mad that and I bought the damn thing, I gave him $25, and I am never watching that again. I'm not even curious to see if I could figure it out. Yeah.
So you don't watch other movies besides Tenet with subtitles, unless it's foreign?
No.
Do you?
Why do you? I'm curious. Why do you ask that?
Well, it's interesting because I was reading a survey done, and a lot of, especially Gen Z people, which I know you're not a part of, but it was like 70% of Gen Z people watch movies with subtitles on.
Yes. What is that about? Is it because you're used to it because of YouTube videos?
Well, so apparently what the survey showed was that the people, the reason at least was that it's hard to hear the dialogue because of especially when you're watching things at home or on a phone or whatever, it's hard to hear the dialogue because the music is always so loud.
Right.
And I've noticed that myself, but I don't watch movies with subtitles because...
It's interesting. God, I think we're onto something here. It's interesting because I also, I like things to be dark. But Jesus, it's like a race to see who can make the light. Like, I called out my cinematographer friends. I'm like, are you guys having a race to see who can light the darkest? And it's almost like mixing is going that way too. It's like, who can be the coolest with so you just barely can hear the dialogue, there's something going on. We need to make it stop. I mean, I like dark, but it doesn't have to be pitch black for sure.
Well, because so I was thinking about this, and it's like, when you're making something, are you making it for the home audience, or do you make it for a theater audience, like a film?
So if you're Grant Harvey, not Christopher Nolan, who can do whatever the hell he wants, you are making it definitely with streaming and home viewing in mind, because that is ultimately where it's going to end up, and where the most sort of income, the margins would be the highest, would be selling it to home use. I don't think, but the thing, oh my God, I'm going to sound like an old man here, but when I started, kid, everything was 4x3, which all the hipster kids in my daughter's film school now want to shoot everything 4x3 because that's cool. And then we started to go to 16:9, because my first couple of films, I didn't shoot anything 2.4. I didn't shoot widescreen. It was all 1.78, or 1.85, widescreen, but not anamorphic wide. But we'd always be cognizant of the TV version. But in film, you were like, whatever. Sometime some people will rent it with the black bars. Some people won't. They suck. They get to lose half the photo, the TV, or half the image. But when you're doing television, when it first started going 16:9, we had to protect for 4:3 because half the households were still watching it, not on cable. They were watching it through the airwaves and watching it on 4:3 TVs that were this big. So we had to shoot this weird thing where we were shooting 16:9, but center punching everything so that it would play well on a 4:3, which was a nightmare. Because all day long you're just feeling I'm not making a nice 16:9 frame, and I'm not making a nice 4:3 frame. I'm just making a frame that works for both. Now, you can buy a fairly large television for $300. So most people, I don't feel like you're discriminating against many, sort of socioeconomic groups by embracing a more wide cinematic way of shooting television, because most people have a larger TV. That said, a lot of people watch stuff on their phones and their iPads and their computers. And again, that's kind of where I go, okay, well, suck it up. If that's what you choose to do, I'm not going to cater to you, so turn the subtitles on, and if you're enjoying it, good for you. But yeah, I kind of feel like I would prefer to make it for people that have a TV that's 40 inches at least, and then you don't have to shoot everything in close-ups. You can shoot stuff wider, and and be more cinematic about it. So that's kind of where my stuff lands. The stuff I'm working on is more. I'm just I'm prepping a pilot for a new television series, and we're having those kinds of conversations. And they want it to be very cinematic. They want us to not shoot it all in tight close-ups like TV used to be. You know, they're interested in wider shots, less coverage, more moving masters, that kind of thing, which is exciting. I mean, that's great.
You know, what about the way the audio is done? Because the audio is also done different for TV and movies, at least from my experience, which is or at least the mixing of the audio with the music and the voices. Does that change at all?
Well, I mean, when we mix for television, when you're doing a TV show, if you do a feature film, you're going to do a number of different mixes for the different platforms and the different, the different ways of viewing it. But TV is TV. So you mix it in a theater with the 7.1 or whatever the hell it is, Atmos. It sounds incredible. And then you have to listen to it through these little speakers that simulates a crappy TV and make sure it sounds okay on those speakers. So sometimes you have to take a little bit of the dynamics out so that it won't, so that it'll actually people will be able to hear it and hear the dialogue on a little TV. I mean, that's kind of almost like the 16:9, 4:3 thing that I told you, where you're sort of taking something awesome and kind of making it just okay so that, a good chunk of the audience will be able to hear it okay. So it's a bit of a drag, but we do deliver different types of mixes for different. I just produced a short film, and we mixed for 5.1, and then we mixed for YouTube, stereo YouTube, and they were slightly different mixes.
So it's interesting. Do you think then, because the number from the survey about the subtitle survey from Preply, it said 57% of people watch shows, movies, or videos in public. So, wow. On their phones. Do you think there's a point where you're going to end up having to mix things for specifically shoot things to be watched on a phone?
Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, what was the failed Quibi? Yeah. I have a cinematographer friend. He shot Orphan Black. He's a Kiwi guy, Aaron Morton, and he shot something for Quibi. Big movie stars in it, but they
everything they did.
Yeah, they shot it I don't know if it was 2:40, but for sure 16:9 or maybe 2:1 ratio. But then he also had to make sure it would work vertically, because they wanted it to be people to be able to watch it on their phone vertically. So he had to every shot he had to think about, okay, how can we then extract a vertical version of that? And then they versioned it. So there was a version. So if you were looking, if this was the frame and I'm here in the TV version, they would take this. He didn't have to put everyone in the middle, so that they could do that. But it's still a lot of work and took a lot of thought on his part, because then he had to make sure that the important things of that shot would fit in a vertical frame, which is pretty wild, I think that's the problem. I would love to, honestly, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do a short film. I would love to do a film vertical, but that doesn't have to also play on a widescreen TV. That's the problem. It would be exciting as hell to do, what was the guy that did it had Willem Dafoe and your favorite actor in it, The Lighthouse.
Oh, The Lighthouse.
That was shot square, almost, and the Quebecois filmmaker shot Mummy, yeah. A lot of that was square, like Instagram. So that would be fun, but again, not if you have to also make it work on. That's where it sucks. That's where you're compromising, is when you're trying to please. I mean, there it is in a nutshell. When you try to please too many people, you have to water it down. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because the other part of this is, and the other stat was 74% of Gen Z people watch things in public on their phones and laptops.
Public.
74%. That's huge, considering the fact that's
I think I'm gonna maybe retire. I think maybe Martin Scorsese and who was it? Oh, Roger Deakins was super mad about it. People are watching my work on their phones, for Christ's sake. They're watching Blade Runner on a phone. Ah, whatever. I guess they're watching it. But yeah, that's depressing.
I
Wow.
don't I personally hate watching things on my phone because it's just I don't like it. It's such a small screen, and then it's like the audio's bad, and I don't dislike it so much.
Interestingly, though, if you think about watching something on phone, terrible, but on a computer, iPad, if you're sitting like I am right now, looking at you on my computer, if I had good headphones that like simulated surround, if I'm thinking about myself in a movie theater, my field of view is filled about when I'm watching something on a computer about the same as a movie theater. Whereas if I'm sitting at home watching it on my big TV, I'm on the couch. It's more like if I was watching, my computer from back here. So there's an argument that watching something, not a phone, but something a little larger screened, like a computer, an iPad, there's an argument that that's as immersive, maybe more so than TV.
So the idea for your next kind of thing you got to do a series of TikTok videos, but like as movies, and you got to make basically whatever it is, 30 seconds or whatever it is, movies for TikTok or Snap.
Yeah,
Snapchat,
I know.
Kind of things.
Yeah, I know a couple people that have tried that, putting little like bits of a story together, and it's interesting. They tried hard, but I feel like they were older people that were trying to figure it out, and that's the thing about like the internets is like you guys sniff that shit out like that. When it's an imposter trying to break in. There's an authenticity that's sort of demanded almost, and if you try to crack the code of that, I think people sniff it out. But I love the idea of shooting something specifically for a format like that. Yeah,
I think you tap into a different audience and a different because I think the other part of it is the attention span thing. I think you look at movies that are super long now and you see how annoyed people get. I think the attention span thing is another part of this, and just the culture of like these instantaneous gratification, right? And this not wanting to watch a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, and what the hell is with movie lengths these days? Good Lord, people, tighten that shit up. The Batman's super long. It's interesting even talking to my sons about video games, and like you could play 200 hours of Far Cry and not play all of it, and I'm like, and most people, the stat I think there is people play a third. But these big open world games that Ubisoft makes, like people play a third of it. Like, so can you imagine a third of $200 million? Like, so 2/3 of $200 million is going out the window. But they said they kind of have to, because if they didn't, people wouldn't.
Someone would get there, even if it's just.
Yeah, and then the noisy people would say, "Oh, it's not worth $80."
The fact that
because the internet would.
Is insane.
But it is insane. But think about how many hours, you spend $12 to go to a movie for 2 hours. I don't know, probably more than $12. Or you buy a movie, it's $25. A video game, $85, but you can play it for 3 weeks straight. So, yeah, it's interesting. But I know that my sons are like, yeah, they're too long. I lose interest. I want. So they're starting to play little indie games that are shorter. So. Maybe it'll come back a little bit, because it feels like things are getting a little indulgent. Yeah, I agree.
I have so many. If I went through the video games I have and how many of them are finished, I think I finished like one video game ever.
This is what I'm talking about. But somebody had to make it, so you could finish it. Yeah, it's weird.
I'm also not good at video games. So it adds another level of difficulty for me because I'm not.
Yeah.
So the next.
What's your favorite video game?
Ooh.
Or one of your favorites?
Probably the Arkham games. The only game, or Spider-Man actually, Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, I heard that was pretty cool.
So now I'm gonna give you a question, which I think you'll have a lot of fun answering.
Okay.
So I'm a movie, a studio, whatever. I'm giving you an unlimited budget, whatever you want. You get to make whatever movie you want and any genre, and you can choose any actors in Hollywood you want. What's the genre? What's the kind of general plot of the movie? And who are the two stars?
That's interesting. I mean, I have some. If that was the case, I would cash that chip in on doing something that whether 2 people watched it or 2 million people watched it, I don't care. You know, like I would purge any sort of thoughts of commercial success from my mind. And what I tend to like that stuff, so it might end up being that, but I would not make that part of the decision-making process, which is what I just did with my little $200,000 movie. It's funny that you say, other than the movie stars, what I just did is essentially, which is super cool actually, what I just finished doing is what you just asked me, which sounds ridiculous and it'll never happen, but it just happened. Other than I didn't have, Tom Hardy in it, or I don't know who would I like to work with.
I don't know.
Nobody popped. I just draw a blank when people ask me this kind of thing. Who would I like to work with?
Pattinson.
For you, my friend, Robert Pattinson. He'd be like right in there. I bet you Hanks is fun to work with. He's not great, but he's Hanks. That would be fun, right?
I feel like you're gonna get a lot of people mad at you if you say Hanks isn't great.
Well, he's very good, but he's Hanks. Everything you watch him in, he's Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Brad Pitt would be pretty fun. He's pretty dreamy, and he's kind of a good actor when you get right down to it. He is.
Yeah, he's good.
He's not like profound or anything like that. Although he's had moments.
Yeah.
Jesse James, he was pretty great.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he was really good.
He was fantastic in that, and so dreamy. Like, oh man, that guy just keeps getting hotter. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Somebody I'd like to work with. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that, but I think genre, like I have a Terrence Malick sort of crime drama thriller that's a Canadian story that will never ever get made because it's a Canadian story that will never ever get made. So I would probably do that. It's super inspired by like Badlands and The Thin Red Line. That's one of my favorite movies. Very much a poem more than a narrative. But I do like I like I was saying, like Angel Heart and Jacob's Ladder. Like I like spooky, not necessarily like balls out horror movies, but just interesting, creepy. Yeah, slow burn. The Shining, a great movie. I love The Thing. That's one of my favorite movies. That's more horror, obviously, but I would probably, and then, but I also really enjoy just like a really good like political thriller or like one of my favorite movies of all time is The Insider with Al Pacino and Russell Crowe. It's a Michael Mann movie. Heat. There's a great movie. Heat is a great movie. But like something more character based in a genre. The movie we just finished, How We Ended Us, is very much like I kind of hope it's sort of elevated, thriller horror. Like it's a character study that's sort of wrapped up in a thriller. Yeah.
Have you watched like some of those other some of those almost cheaper movies like Nerve and Truth or Dare and those kind of horror movies? Or
some of them, yeah. Like especially prepping for this movie, like The Babadook, and just It Follows. What are some of the other ones I watched? Oh, I got that new movie. I haven't watched it yet. X. It's supposed to be pretty cool.
That's on my list. They're making a prequel. I think they've started shooting prequels.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, have you seen it?
It's X is on my list. I want to watch it.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, it's on my list. I like those movies. Like my friend did a movie called Ginger Snaps, which is a Canadian classic. And I did this. I did one of the sequels to it, the prequel to it, and it wasn't really a prequel. It was like sort of an abstract alternate timeline thing. But I love little movies like that, and I think in my TV career, I ended up doing a lot of genre stuff, not by choice. Just in TV, it's weird. You do something and you do it fairly well, and then it begets more work. So all of a sudden, you're like a genre guy, and you're like, whoa! Suddenly, I'm a sci-fi guy. What? What I like about genre, like Guillermo del Toro, and like you can explore big themes that if you did it in a drama, it would be kind of wanky, like it'd be like, but you can explore that in science fiction and in horror and in genre films, and action. You can explore those kinds of things. And I'm a theme guy. Like, I like theme, I try not to start there with my projects because it usually ends up making it a bit wanky if you start with a theme. But I do need to know what the theme is eventually, because to me that becomes the North Star. Like, even in a television episode, I'm always asking the showrunner, so what themes are we working with here? And they're like, I don't know, because to me, when we know what it's about, not the plot, but what it's about, then we can make all of our decisions, our cinematic decisions, based on that kind of North Star. And that's why everyone will feel it, like, because we pick props because of us, they fit the characters and the theme. We picked, colors because of the theme. We picked the lenses we're using because of what it's about. And once you get all that stuff working together, that's when something will have a voice. Like it will feel like you're watching something with a voice. Yeah.
So my final question, because I know it's almost an hour, and I could literally do this for another 2 hours, but I know.
Yeah, I'm having fun. I got some Irish whiskey on the go. We're good.
So, what advice do you have for young filmmakers who kind of want to become directors and in the film industry?
There's sort of two ways in. Especially when I was, 30 years ago, you could kind of start as a production assistant and then maybe move into the assistant director department and work your way up, and eventually that might lead to directing. And then there's guys like me and John Fawcett and some of my other friends that just started directing and made zero money, lived with our parents, had other jobs. I worked at a bar and was a director, but I was directing and discovering my voice and finding my voice. And that's in my mind, that's the route to take. And nowadays, I believe that's the only route to take. I think going up through crew, it's going to be very difficult for you to make your jump because it's become so democratic. Like, you have to understand, when I started to shoot something that didn't look like you shot it with a VHS camcorder, which looked terrible, you had to shoot it on film. So we would literally, I had infiltrated some shows that were shooting film, and I had friends that were the clapper loaders, that were the low-level camera people that, there was this thing called short end. So if you shot a magazine of film, and then there was, like, say, 50 feet left on it, or 25, 30 feet left on it, they might, if the take was longer than that, they'd take the mag off, put a fresh one on, and you'd end up with a little roll of film. We would have people collecting these little rolls of film, and then we'd go out and shoot something. Then we'd have to save money, process the negative, have it scanned, all this stuff. So if you were making a movie, you needed to be wealthy. So it was very elitist. And there wasn't people that didn't have access to rich uncles or whatever weren't making movies. So it became a very rich white guy arena to play in. And so nowadays, anyone can go out, like everybody has one of these, and they can go out and they can make a little movie, edit on their laptop, edit on their phone, and get it in a festival if they have a good idea or an interesting point of view. So it's become about that, which is exciting. Like, it's about, what's your idea, what's your point of view, what do you have to say, how are you saying it that's interesting. So I feel like for young filmmakers, get a job at a bar, buy some gear, talk to somebody to get $5,000 or $6,000 to put together to buy yourself a decent computer and a decent camera, and start shooting. But I also think going to film school is good. I was encouraging my daughter to do that, but I also think going to film school to find your tribe, your posse, is also important, because otherwise you might, there are film co-ops and stuff, but it is, you find people your age that are interested in the things you're interested in film, in making films, and you become a little unit that will go on and do other stuff, and you'll still connect all the time through your career. But yeah, I honestly feel like nowadays it's a lot easier to be a kid in Calgary, or a kid in frickin' Thunder Bay, and make a movie and break out, because there's all sorts of online festivals that you can enter your film in.
Hell, and place. You can just put your movie on YouTube. YouTube,
absolutely. No, it's an exciting time. I mean, it's incredibly saturated. So content, I hate that word, but content is, has been devalued because there's so much of it out there. But Hollywood is a big old machine that is always looking for something that can make them money. So if you have an interesting point of view or an interesting take on how to tell your stories, they'll be interested in you, for sure.
So
for sure.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
That was fun, man. We got the shit talk Christopher Nolan. It was excellent.
Christopher Nolan.
Don't cut that out. Don't cut that part out.
I'm not cutting that out. I'm probably gonna make that the trailer. I'll clip that stuff and put it up on the whole.
Right on, man.
Do you have anything you want to promote? Social media? Anything?
Not at the moment. I'll give you a shout when my movie's ready.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we'll do another one of these. Yes. You can watch it. You can watch it, and then we can. I can give you a little preview, and then we can talk about it. That'll be cool.
Definitely, we have to do this again. I'm not even joking. If I wasn't worried about the fact that people like the attention span of people watching this, we could do this for 5 hours. I'm not even joking.
Okay, I'm going to plug one thing.
Yes.
I'm going to plug one thing. My daughter, Jordan Harvey, has a terrific, and she's migrated it over to YouTube. She started to, but she has a terrific podcast called Film Kids Ask, and you should check it out. So Film Kid Asks, plural. And she basically invites some of her film school buddies, and then she sort of used my connections with the industry, and now she's gone on to she just interviewed the editor of Top Gun, the new Top Gun, but from the point of view of a film student. So all of her questions are sort of from that point of view. She's very specific, and then she has some of her friends on, and they ask questions. It's a great podcast. I highly recommend it. Yeah, Film Kid.
It's linked somewhere. Whenever people watch this, it's linked somewhere. So
perfect. Yeah,
in the description or pop up or something.
And I'll get her to do the same for you, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it. I want to actually interview her now. I'm going to watch this thing.
Yeah, you should. It's very cool, man. And she does a great job. She's very much like you. She's a good interviewer, and she does a great job. And she's got, she literally has Academy Award winning producer. She has, the #2 writer on Mad Men. Lots and lots of interesting people on it. So it's very, and again, if you're someone interested in the process of filmmaking, or a film student, or someone kind of at their early part of your career, it's very instructional, because she also has like assistant directors and sound mixers and other crew people on. So it's worth checking out.
Yeah, so there's a link somewhere for everyone who wants to watch it. And we do have to make that a thing. I do want to interview her, and I want to ask her about her experiences doing these. And
yeah, and having her old man telling her what to do all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, so we should definitely make that happen because, again, yeah, I'd love to talk to her about that and just kind of,
For sure. Yeah, she's in Europe right now with her sister. She'll be back in September, so reach out then.
Perfect. We're going to make it happen.
All right, man.
Thank you so much again for coming on. And for everyone, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, go check out that podcast.
Don't watch Tenet. If you haven't seen it, don't bother.
And follow us on social media at comicboys_. Everything's on the screen or in the description, so you can figure that out. And Grant Harvey wants you to subscribe, so you should do that.
I think you should. Yeah. I think you definitely should subscribe.
And so thank you again for coming on. And see everyone else next week for episode 11.
Cool. Who's coming? Can you reveal that?
Assuming everything works according to plan, I think we're going to have someone who was a stunt coordinator for The Incredible Hulk.
Nice.
Assuming nothing else comes up in between that, which makes me push something back. But, right now,
Good
that's
luck.
what it is.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Yep.